Fact, of course, is one agreed, no doubt. True enough, and loud in court, so right I'd say, well said. A fact. He takes himself seriously. Motel rooms have lost their punch for him. The feeling is expressed in bags. There are two, and inside those two, there are two more. It's not an easy situation, but there is something like abandon in the air. There is something like the feeling of the idea of silk scarves in the air. There is a kind of madness to it, the kind we read about in magazines. One of the bags contains a bottle of liquor, a sure sign of thoughtfulness about who one might have been. He pours himself a small drink in a fluted plastic glass, sans ice. He thinks to himself, if I were from the big town, I would be calm and debonair. The big town doesn't send its riffraff out. He sits on the bed, both feet on the floor. He studies the ashtray and tries to rule out preference, preferring over not preferring. But he prefers gravity over what other state? Preferring in this case, Earth. Of course. Preferring some state over the non-state. Now he grips himself with determination, even knowing that it causes sadness. Of course. He is determined to be what? He is determined to be serious. Not for the first time, and not for the first time, there is the feeling of a mistake. But too late he has arrived, and there are rooms, and all rooms are not the same. Of course. Some better than others, obviously. A better view, a better layout, a better shower, softer bed. Of course. Not so far from noise, more like home, etc., etc. Very abstract. Of course. He lifts the telephone from its cradle. As one. His determination gets stronger, if no clearer, even as he faints in its force. Were it not for our momentum, the inertia of our actions, the constant inspiration of our habits, we could not continue. The will is almost nothing, he thinks to himself. At the sound of the first ring, he hangs up. He pushes down the button and listens to the silence of the object in his hand, and then he hangs up. Very dramatic. The phone rings immediately. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He brings this cloud of conditions with him. He is at the center of a ball of hot stuff that we haven't put our minds to yet. And sitting on the bed in the motel room is no different. Somewhere in another room, in range, somebody got it and phoned him. It happens all the time, really. A kind of restlessness in that range. He sits and thinks about obedience. He has resolved that of the two kinds, the kind that takes every message of order, rule, law as error, that loathes the buildings, that contradicts the inner voice, that resists, in short, is his, and that the other kind, how could it be? He is unhappy with the world. He works with the forwardness and the backwardness. He works with what things are ahead of us and with what things are behind us. I guess the other kind would be to work with things that are alongside the attachments. Obedience is impossible for him. At the same time, he is cooperative and indeed solicitous. No one in the world would mistake him for a real person, obedience, etc. The other kind works with the things that are of the alongside us, the attachments. At the same time, he is cooperative. The numbers on the telephone, the parts of the book, the notes of the scale, they are the same, are they not? They come from the sameness of the idea of the outsideness, not the alongside, the outsideness, the differentness. It is a problem being cooperative, and at the same time, refusing obedience. Carrying the load of the idea of differentness, he wants. he handles himself in the morning, it's just like for every other man. The fantasy is the distance, the reluctance, the reticence, the otherness. The fantasy is the uncleanness. So, getting up gets to be a problem for a sensitive person like him. Problem is to run that gauntlet again. Problem, remove gauntlet, remove on, remove to leave this, make this whatever that. He lights the motel room with a slightly blue body light. When he is alone, he forgets sometimes to walk. He just moves. Sometimes they touch, sometimes they don't. And everything in between. As sometimes he forgets to combine talk with thinking and just thinks or just talks. Especially, I think, it happens in those rooms. Who knows why? The way it disconnects from what's just outside is predictable, is it not so? It never stops being a mystery. We have talked about it. When he says hello, you hear a long whining sound, which is his voice and the hello. It is as different from whatever, the way one might remember, as a sound a cat would make. He is not unusual in this, I think. He is absolutely uninhabitable. A thankless star. Remove stars. Thankless. Replace with. He has a special way of speaking. But it seems only to make him more like other men. This is one place, and here every kid is armed. So where are you going? Hunting. Only sometimes we don't see the guns. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. The town and always references to down and up. Down from Des Moines, up from somewhere. Missed my chance. Didn't even see it. Thought it was a threat to house and home. Why'd you come to the big town? No thanks. Looking back, didn't get the up and down part. How could I have missed it? Get a grip on yourself, he says. Working against time is another thing, he says. Here I am, working against time. The pencil fairly flies as he makes out his simple requests for breakfast. Room service, courtesy of the company. This is a record. I am sitting on a bench next to myself. Inside of me, the words form. Come down out of the tree and fight like a man. 2 cheese and eggs. This is not a record. This is a story. I want to say something about myself. I am not sitting on a bench next to myself, whatever that means. I am a city of habits. I am completely knowable in every way. I recognize superstition in every form. The anger of the words wakes me in the dream of myself. I imagine there are 2 men on the bench. The exchange between them will not be seen. They will not put it forth to be seen. And if I make something of the situation to show a difference between the 2 men, the difference will distract the true onlooker. The film fogs, 1G and fogs. And add a dish of prunes if they are in season. The men are in the park in the small Midwestern town. That is, the bench is in the park. We know from what is past that the men are on the bench. They are old by doctor's standards. The park graces the courthouse of the county. The courthouse has about it the simple air of failure. An abandoned outpost. The park has sidewalks, fences, trees, grass, and a statue of a man and a horse at war, or or ready for war. They are alone with their intentions. The sculptor has made the horse look stupid. The man's jaw is firm. The time is late morning in early summer. The sun shines. In this scene, there are two shots. Park in all its details, frozen in time, broken on the right edge, sometimes up to 2/3, across the frame by the body of a person, very close, blurred, moving almost rhythmically. We have just begun, and already we are stuck, working against time, as they say. The camera is obsessed with what it sees. Park, the ragged edge. Nothing moves except the edge. The edge moves. It's as if there is no other place. His mind races. 1 G in fogs, 2 Gs in eggs. When the two men spoke, they spoke about permanence and impermanence. They noted that there were certain things which were impermanent and other things to which the term impermanence did not apply. Thus, they came to make a great division between that which is impermanent and that which is permanent. Everything in the transitory category turned out to be the particulars of our existence, and these were divided into physical, mental, and others, which were neither physical nor mental. Among those particulars which were neither physical nor mental, they listed attainment, aging, and coincidence. On the permanent side of this great division of reality was a notion they referred to as space, and by that term they meant neither conceptual space nor space as given by our senses. They meant connections. They decided that such space is irreducible and not transitory, and that it exists as long as one is alive. They wondered, naturally, what becomes of it. This impasse is no help at all. Consider his situation. For instance, he is expected to be positive and helpful about breakfast. In the order of things, it is more important that she know about, approves, than that the shot should change. And what about the problems we see in him? He is still sitting on the bed, both feet on the floor. The small drink in the fluted plastic glass sans ice is hardly touched. The phone has just stopped ringing. In his mind, the two men are frozen in time on the bench. The horse looks stupid. The warrior's jaw is firm. Incredibly slowly, our view begins to slide. His idea is that the transition always takes one by surprise. Always. There is no way to prepare. He imagines absolute awareness on the other side. He wonders, as we all do, how it comes to you that the light has changed. We were distracted by the fluid right edge. There is an absoluteness to surprise, he thinks. He applies this simple thought to the problem of how to move the shot. Incredibly slowly, our view begins to slide. What begins as a problem. We are enchanted by the park and all its details, timeless, broken on the right edge by the body of the person, very close, blurred, moving rhythmically. How can it begin to change? How can the beginning go unnoticed? How can we pass from one state to another? Is it possible, if one already has a certain experience of life, to start directly on the path? Or is there danger involved in trying to do advanced practices without having the proper foundation? They came to believe that unless one has actually gone through the preliminary experiences, conclusions may be drawn on the basis of insufficient information, and that these conclusions may produce just the opposite effect of the one which is intended. In other words, one never knows. And so the view begins to slide anyway, as they might say, sliding eastward, turning eastward, the particulars moving left to right across the frame, a parade of sorts. And it comes to rest finally on the road, the street that holds the park. We are still obsessed, we are not relieved. She is no different. How could it be? Except that we have moved off the body of the person, very close and blurred, and every edge is raw. And there is some machine approaching, wider than it is high, as they say. A pack of motorcycles, a herd of elephants, a tribe of Bedouins. Something from the east, barely moving in a cloud of haze and heat and dust in almost telephoto, gold and green and flat. The eye of the slit. The eye of the needle.